We got Sophie the Trophy, one half of the Blonde Bombers, coming out and exposing her truth, the behind the scenes and what's really going on with Caitlin Clark's injury.
Sophie Cunningham just said something that has basketball fans everywhere hitting the panic button. We're not talking about another bad call or dirty play here. We're talking about the possibility that Caitlin Clark might actually walk away from professional women's basketball completely.
Close? How's she coming along?
Dude, I don't know. Everyone keeps asking, everyone's like, and I'm like, literally, she doesn't even know. Like, it's just like a day by day legit type of thing. And so, yeah, she's close, but like, you also have to remember, like, she could be playing if it wasn't in the WNBA by now, but like at this level, with how deep and like how good people are nowadays in our league, which is the best it's ever been, like you can't just be good. You have to be on top of your game. And so just trying to get her back in game shape, I think, is what they're trying to do. But like, again, it's literally a day by day. I'm not holding out any information. I just literally don't.
Sophie basically suggested that Caitlin's days in the league might be numbered. And now everyone is freaking out. If that sounds over the top, think again. The warning signs have been flashing for months now. Here's the reality check nobody wants to face. Caitlin isn't a first-year player anymore. She's into her sophomore season, and you'd expect the organization would have learned how to shield their biggest attraction by now. Guess what? They haven't even come close.
She also would be able to play if this was not sumo wrestling, if this was not UFC, if you guys did not play rugby in these basketball games. She'd probably be able to get out there and do her thing. But she has to put on all this armor, which caused her to get hurt anyway. She had to put on all this armor because y'all don't play basketball. It is rugby out there.
She gets hammered in every single game, fouled like there's a bounty on her head, and treated more like a practice dummy than the superstar who's carrying the entire sport on her shoulders. Then the WNBA acts completely stunned when someone like Sophie suggests Caitlin might actually bail. Stunned? Come on. You've been practically pushing her toward the door. Let's back up for a second. Sophie has been hit with so many fines, she might as well have her own payment plan with the league office. Yet she's the one brave enough to point out what everyone else can clearly see. This whole situation with Caitlin simply cannot continue.
I love Paige to death. Do not get me wrong. I think, I think she's a hell of a player and like would love to play with her one day. But those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night. Like, you literally couldn't touch her.
Sophie came right out and said that nobody really knows when Caitlin will return from her current injury. They keep saying day to day, but that official speak quickly becomes week to week. And before you know it, the entire season is over. Fans don't need medical training to smell something fishy here. Then Sophie dropped the real bombshell. She basically said that Caitlin would probably already be back on the court if this wasn't the WNBA. That statement cuts deep.
Look, listen, Sophie, I love you trying to hold it down. We love that you were trying to hold it down. We wish you a speedy recovery. But as far as what's going on in the WNBA, we are on them. We gonna stay on them. It's not gonna change. It's not gonna change. We're on today nonsense.
Think about what she's really saying there. In a different league, or maybe even a different sport entirely, Caitlin would be healthy and playing. But in this particular setup, the talent gap isn't forgiving. The officiating is a mess, and the behind-the-scenes politics make high school look mature. So instead of celebrating the fact that Caitlin packs every arena to capacity, we're sitting here wondering if she'll even step on a court again this year, or worse, if she'll even want to return next season. And time for some brutal honesty. Caitlin doesn't need this league. This league is absolutely desperate for her. The television ratings, sold-out crowds, jersey sales, everything exploded when Caitlin arrived on the scene. Take her away, and the fever become irrelevant overnight. Half those arenas go back to being half empty, and the whole league slides back into the shadows where it was before. Caitlin brought the spotlight, and now that bright light is showing every crack and flaw. Fans can see the terrible officiating. They notice the selective enforcement. They watch how certain players get treated like royalty while others get hammered. Take someone like Paige Buchers, for instance. Meanwhile, Caitlin gets shoved around, fouled hard, and then gets called for complaining about it. That's the double standard Sophie was getting at. Sophie can't even mention certain players without getting slapped with a fine. Other stars can openly say, Caitlin gets special treatment from referees and nobody says a word. Coaches can scream at officials and it gets ignored. But Sophie makes a joke or points out obvious favoritism, and suddenly she's writing another check. That's not fair enforcement. That's deliberate targeting. When that targeting seems connected to Caitlin being at the center of everything, fans start wondering if this is personal. Now here's what makes the league really uncomfortable. Caitlin doesn't seem like someone who wants to waste her prime years getting beaten up by referees and dealing with jealous teammates. She's competitive, she's got fire, but she's also intelligent. If she feels like this environment is destroying her body and draining her spirit, why wouldn't she explore other options? This isn't some wild theory, it's just logical thinking. Let's talk about playing overseas. Tons of players head to Europe during the off-season for one clear reason: better money. They get paid more, they receive more respect, and many of them actually say the officiating is superior. Caitlin could leave tomorrow and become the highest paid female basketball player on earth without ever dribbling in the WNBA again. Honestly, I wouldn't fault her for that choice. Fans wouldn't either. They'd find ways to watch her games online, purchase streaming packages, and cheer as she dominates teams in Spain, Turkey, or Italy. The WNBA would just be left scratching their heads, wondering how they managed to lose their biggest attraction before her third year even started. But here's another angle that might hurt the league even more. Caitlin has opportunities completely outside of basketball. She's already mentioned her passion for golf. What if she went the Paige Spiranak route and focused on endorsements, media work, maybe even professional golf? She's marketable enough to earn millions doing something that doesn't involve getting her face smashed by someone's elbow every single night. That's the absolute worst-case scenario for the WNBA. Not Caitlin playing overseas, but Caitlin saying, forget this, I'm switching to golf. I'm building my personal brand. You can keep all the drama. Fans are already starting these conversations. Wouldn't Caitlin be happier playing golf? What if she just went to Europe and waited for the WNBA to fix its problems? When whispers like these start becoming real discussions, the league has a major crisis on its hands. Stars leaving isn't anything new. Maya Moore stepped away, Liz Cambage walked out, and plenty of others have taken extended breaks. The difference here is that Caitlin represents the biggest thing that's ever happened to women's basketball. If she leaves, it's not just a loss, it's a complete disaster. Let's not pretend the warning signs aren't already there. Confusing injury reports, day-to-day updates that make no sense, her missing team film sessions, and now Sophie openly admitting that nobody really knows what's going on. That's not bad luck. That's a league failing its most important player. Instead of being honest and transparent, the WNBA is playing games. Groin injury one day, ankle problem the next, questionable for tonight's game. Fans aren't fooled. They recognize these patterns. They know something smells wrong. You can't even call this a conspiracy anymore. You have to call it what it really is: complete incompetence. The league doesn't understand what's wrong. The team doesn't know how to manage the situation. And Caitlin might be sitting there questioning whether it's worth risking her health for an organization that clearly doesn't have her back. Don't forget about the mental pressure either. Caitlin is carrying expectations that no female athlete in American sports has ever faced. She represents Nike, State Farm, Gatorade, ESPN, and the entire WNBA brand. She can't grab coffee without people lining up for photos. Every single game gets national television coverage. Every shot gets analyzed by social media critics. Every foul becomes a heated argument. You think that pressure doesn't affect her? Look at Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams. They all reached breaking points where the pressure became overwhelming. Caitlin is human too. Sophie's comments about her potentially walking away might not be dramatic speculation. It might be Caitlin protecting her own mental health. Here's the real shocking part. Fans wouldn't even be angry with her for leaving. If Caitlin announced tomorrow, I'm finished with the WNBA, I'm going to Europe, or even better, I'm switching to golf, people would actually support that decision. They'd say, good for you. Take care of yourself. Take care of your body. This league never took care of you. The WNBA, however, would be completely devastated. Because without Caitlin, there is no momentum. Attendance numbers would crash, media attention would disappear, sponsorship deals would evaporate. The Caitlin Clark effect isn't just a catchphrase. It's literally the difference between growth and complete irrelevance. Sophie just said out loud what plenty of people have been thinking privately. Maybe Caitlin should quit the WNBA. When fans hear that coming from an active player, it feels different. It doesn't sound like gossip anymore. It sounds like a prediction. Now let's really examine how this connects to the WNBA's ongoing favoritism problem, because it's not just about Caitlin's injuries or Sophie's fines. It's about how the league picks and chooses which stars to protect and promote, creating heroes, villains, and golden children based on who fits their preferred storyline. Look at Paige backers as a perfect example. Paige enters the league with massive media hype, and the WNBA already seems to have written her script. Superstar treatment from referees? Check. Constant highlight packages? Check. Media telling fans she's the future? Double check. Yet Caitlin has already accomplished more for the WNBA in 2 seasons than Paige has managed in her entire career so far. The difference? Caitlin doesn't get protection. She gets a target painted on her back instead. That's exactly what Sophie was highlighting. She basically held up a mirror to the league and said, look at yourselves. You protect some players, you punish others, and the person actually carrying your league gets treated the worst. She didn't need to say Caitlin's name directly. Everyone knew exactly who she meant. That's why fans exploded over her comments. It's not just about Caitlin's health anymore. It's about whether the league has any credibility left. Think about it seriously. If Caitlin decides she's had enough and walks away, what remains? Angel Reese has popularity, but she's divisive. Aja Wilson is incredibly talented, but casual fans don't recognize her. Paige has media attention, but she hasn't proven she can carry an entire league. Without Caitlin, the WNBA looks exactly like it did before she showed up. Desperate for attention, begging networks for coverage, and struggling to fill seats in most cities. That's why Sophie's words hit so hard. She wasn't just guessing. She was issuing a warning. Let's think through the possible scenarios. First scenario, Caitlin decides to tough it out, heal up, and give the WNBA a few more years. Best case outcome, she pushes through everything, wins multiple MVP awards, and forces the league to finally treat her like the superstar she is. Worst case, the injuries accumulate, she gets mentally exhausted, and we end up talking about wasted potential instead of actual achievements. Second scenario, she takes her talents to Europe. The money is better, the seasons are shorter, and she gets treated with respect. Picture Caitlin filling arenas in Spain or Turkey while American fans stay up all night streaming her games online. That would humiliate the WNBA in ways that can't be measured. Third scenario, Caitlin changes sports completely. She takes her competitive drive, her marketing appeal, and her fan base to professional golf. People might laugh at that idea now, but they laughed when Michael Jordan tried baseball too. The difference is, Caitlin doesn't need to become Tiger Woods to succeed in golf. She just needs to show up, play decent golf, and collect endorsement money. Trust me, sponsors would be fighting each other to sign her. All 3 scenarios are completely realistic. That's what should terrify the league. When your biggest star has better options outside your organization than inside it, you've already lost the battle. Sophie just had the courage to say what everyone was thinking quietly. Let's get back to the fans, because they're really driving this conversation. Fans aren't stupid. They see the different treatment between Paige and Caitlin. They notice how Sophie gets fined while other players get away with worse behavior. They watch the one-sided officiating, read the vague injury reports, and see how the league's public relations team tries to spin every controversy. Guess what? They're not buying it anymore. The WNBA had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to grow alongside Caitlin Clark, and instead of protecting their golden goose, they've thrown her into a rigged system. That's why discussions about her future feel so real right now. If the league doesn't make serious changes immediately, Caitlin might make the choice for them. and it won't work out in their favor. So what actually happens if she leaves? The honest answer is complete chaos. Sponsorship deals would collapse, television ratings would crater. The Caitlin Clark effect that boosted attendance numbers across the entire league would disappear instantly. Here's the craziest part of all. Fans wouldn't even blame Caitlin for leaving. They'd blame the WNBA. They'd say the league blew their biggest opportunity, and they'd be absolutely correct. Sophie gave everyone a preview of that reality. Now the WNBA has to live with the knowledge that people are taking this possibility seriously. So here's my question for you. Do you think Caitlin will stick around and fight through this mess, pack up and head to Europe, or completely shock the world by leaving basketball behind? Share your thoughts in the comments because this story is far from over. If you found this analysis helpful, make sure to like this content, subscribe for more updates, and keep following along because the Caitlin Clark situation is only getting more intense from here.